bread is an absolutely staple ingredient in the UK. We love a sandwich. It's so easy to make. These are all the ingredients you're going to need. Some warm water, salt, some strong flour, and some yeast. And that's it, people. Let's make some bread. Right, I'm going to go through weighing out because we haven't done any weighing out for a while, and I just want to make sure that you guys know. So I'm going to lift my bowl and I'm going to put on my sieve. Now, the sieve is quite handy because it's not going to fall. If it's not going to work for you, just use 2 bowls, okay? Now, it says here lots of numbers and it says grams. So I'm going to press the button to set it to 0. And I do want grams, so I want to look for that G there. If I want to change it to a different mode, you press the other button and it goes through. So you've got millilitres and ounces. So I'm going to go back to eventually grams, okay? Set that again. No, there we are. Okay, so I want 300 grams of strong flour. So I'm going to tip it in. Does it really matter if I get 295 or does it matter I've got 310? For making bread, no. And in fact, you don't even really need to weigh your bread. You can just do this by eye because the ingredients, and I'm doing this upside down, you just add in the water and adjust the ingredients. So it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Look at that, 314. For making bread, it's not a problem. So I'm going to take it off the scales so I don't damage my scales and turn them off. The love of power saving. Okay, so to sieve, you put your hand there and we're going to bash our sieve against our hand. Do we 100% need to sieve bread flour? No, we could skip out this stage. It's absolutely fine. But you can see all those little bits. So sometimes it's kind of handy to sieve because you're getting out any lumps and bumps and you're creating rise and air. Right, the other thing is don't wash your sieve. Okay, it's the one thing you don't need to wash. You can just bash it, get out all the flour, make sure it's nice and clean, and you can put it back. If you wash it, all the water that goes in here, when you put more flour in, it makes it go all lumpy and it won't work. So that's the one thing that you don't have to wash. Okay, now, technical term, we're going to make a well in the middle and we're going to add our packet of yeast. And I'm going to add that on one side, okay? And I'm going to add a good teaspoon of salt. Okay, so not a pinch, but an actual whole teaspoon. Because salt is your flavour and yeast is your raising agent. So I've got the yeast on this side, I've got the salt on this side. The salt stops the yeast from activating. So if I mix it in with the flour on one side and I mix it in with the yeast on the other side, I know in a minute it's all going to be mixed together, but it just gives the yeast a chance. Now my water is lukewarm, so that means I can put my finger into my water and it's not hot. If I want to check if it's the right temperature, and if you've got young children or babies at home that you feed, then you put your finger and you just put a little bit on your wrist. It's a really good way of seeing if that liquid on your wrist is too hot, then it's too hot for the bread and it's too hot for your younger siblings or, you know, the young baby that you're feeding. So it's a really good way of managing heat. Okay, now I haven't weighed my water. So am I going to tip it all in? No, I'm just going to do a little bit at a time to make my dough, and I can always add in more water. And this is why you don't need to weigh your flour. You could just do it by eye. If you're going to do a lot of bread, because you all want bread, then I would definitely put 2 packets of yeast in instead of 1. If I add all the water in one go, then unfortunately I can't take the water out. But as you can see, I can just add a little bit. And I'm using my spoon so I don't get my hands messy, because I will end up like the Yeti monster. And as soon as I'm able to, I can get my hands in and start kneading. But this just keeps my hands nice and clean. And you can see it's coming, but it's not quite there yet. But you can't feel it unless you get your hands in. So let's get messy, shall we? I'm squeezing it together. I want all this flour to be incorporated. Okay, what do you think? Is it still too dry? I think so, but look, it's coming. It's coming. Let's just wait one more minute. Don't want to add too much. I think literally a tiny drop. Tiny drop. There we are. Mix that together. And you're getting all that flour in, rolling it round. Oh, one more drop. There we are. Okay, now I can put it out on my work surface. Okay, so there's my dough. So now, to stretch the gluten in the flour, and the reason we're using strong flour is because the gluten in the flour is what gives the bread the stretch. So now we're going to knead it. Kneading is using this part of your hand. And bread is all about, you don't like your teacher. You've got horrible homework. You've got to tidy your room. So you put in all your crossness, and with bread, you end up with love. So you need to put your muscles into it. Make sure you're standing nicely so that you're using your hand and you're using your body and you're stretching through. So you're pushing one with this part of your hand all the way out, and then you're rolling it back. And what you're doing, and Tom, if you zoom in now, can you come right in? Can you see that this bread it's not smooth, okay? It's nice and soft and subtle, but it's not very smooth. So if we knead this for a couple more minutes, we will see. So I'll do one more knead, and then we'll come back and we'll see. So you go one like that, you're pulling it back, okay? Right, this looks really nice and soft now. You can see that the bread is a lot smoother and it's really soft to the touch, but it's not very big. So to make the bread rise, we need to prove it. So that means putting it into a warm place. Now you guys hate washing up, so do I. Save washing up. I'm going to put my bread back into my dough, back into my bowl, and I'm going to put this in a warm place. But to stop the yeast and the bread dough from drying out, I'm going to cover it. Now I've got some strange plastic thing that I was given, and it's really handy. I'm trying to be more eco, but a damp tea towel or a bit of cling film, and then we're going to put this in a warm place. So I'm going to put it in my proving drawer, but you could just leave it out in your kitchen nice and warm, and we'll come back to this probably in about half an hour, 40 minutes, and we'll see what it looks like. Have a look, it has risen. Lovely, look at that. Lovely, and so lovely and warm. Okay, I'm going to split my dough into three, because I'm going to do pizza, I'm going to do mozzarella stuffed garlic dough balls. Oh yes, I want to eat that. And I'm just going to do bread rolls. So I'm going to take my dough very carefully so I don't cut on the work surface. And I'm going to put these two back, and we're just going to roll this out. Okay, so a little bit of flour. Okay, and I'm going to cut this into 6 even balls, and now we can shape them. So to make bread rolls, you really want them to look nice. So the best way of making them look nice is to fold them over. So pull your bread dough, okay, and when you can see this crease here, well, this is the bit that it would be underneath. So you're trying to shape it and make it look really nice. And this bit here is going to be underneath, so you'll never see that. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of flour into my bowl. There we are. And then we can do loads of different shapes. So I'll make some shapes and we'll come back. Right, so to make some different shapes, I've got 3 long lines, and I'm going to stick them together, and it's the old plaiting. So there we are. And then you're just going to tie it at the ends. And then I've rolled this into a long line. Sometimes it gets a bit floury, so it's difficult to roll. So you can roll it in your fingers. You can wet your hand, just a little bit of water, and that will stop it. And then we'll just tie this in a knot, like so. Okay, so we'll put that on there. And then this one, we can do a big one. So again, I'm just going to pull out my dough to try and make it in a nice round circle, little ball. And then this one we put on top. So you pull this out, Okay, and then you put that on the top and you push your finger down. Okay, so there they are. Now, to make them really nice and shiny, we can glaze them. So we can either use an egg wash, a beaten egg with a bit of milk, or we could just use a little bit of milk. So I've got my pastry brush and I'm literally just going to dip that in and I'm just going to brush them. And this will give them a really nice, shiny, golden brown finish. And if you could put sesame seeds or poppy seeds, sunflower seeds, a little bit of cheese, and that would make them look really nice. I'm just going to do plain ones. Okay, in an ideal world, at home I would put this back, so I'm going to put this back to proof for another 15 minutes and then we'll put them in the oven. At school, it would have to go straight in the oven. So let's put this back in the proving drawer. There we are, we'll come back. It looks really good. Can you zoom in, Tom? Can you see that? Perfect. Right, let's get this in the oven for 220 for about, I'm going to set 10 minutes because we can always come back and check. Beeped. So let's have a look. Oven gloves. Wow, these look amazing. Do you know, when I put this in, I was really hoping that this was an oven-proof dish again, because do you remember what happened last time with the apple crumble? And it broke. Right, okay, so, oh, it's stuck to the bottom. Oh no, look there. Perfect. Okay, so golden brown, that's what we're looking for. And then we want to turn it over, and it's hot, so really be careful. You might need to leave it a couple of minutes. And you want to tap it, and then you can hear it's nice and hollow. And then we're going to leave it. So I've put it on a cooling rack. So I'm going to lift my dish off, put it on the stove top so it's not going to burn. I'm going to move these to a cooling rack, and then that is your beautiful bread.